Welcome to For the Record, an unfiltered view on current trends and timeless advice for surviving in the aesthetics industry. Whether you're an injector, practice owner, sales rep, or marketer, it's time to set the record straight. Each week we cut through the chaos and showcase diverse perspectives and winning ideas from the best minds in the industry. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Hall, Chief Growth Officer at Aesthetic Record. Now, let's get started on this week's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of For the Record. And this week we have a new disruptive thinker on a whole different level. Our first ever esthetician on our podcast today. We have with us Maggie Miley Kelly, who is the owner of Complexions on Carter in St. Paul, Minnesota. She is a licensed esthetician of 23 years, I think maybe a few extras since I've seen that number. And she's really done it all. She's an educator, she's an esthetician, she's a yogi, she's a nutrition specialist, she's a meditator, she's kind of doing all the things. But she's also bringing light therapy to the forefront, a published author with a book available on Amazon, and she's an incredible lecturer as well. She did a phenomenal job at Aesthetic Next, and she's here today to tell us all about really what she's doing in her spa, her services, and the evolution of skincare in the U.S. So welcome to our show, Maggie.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here and being your first esthetician on your podcast. Thank you.
Well, I have to tell you, I was absolutely blown away. Aesthetic Next gave me a whole new exposure because I've been in the injectable world for a long time. You guys are incredible. You're doing such a dynamic range of services. You're running these incredible businesses. And I think it's so unknown by the medical community, but I am so just overwhelmed by what I saw at Aesthetic Next. So I'm so happy to have you on our show to tell us all about really everything that's going on in your world. But let's start from the very beginning. How did you land in this career from the start?
Okay, so I guess kind of technically it started when I had a friend. I was in high school. She was a few years older, and she was a manicurist. And she told me that the salon spa she worked in needed someone to come and be a receptionist, answer phones, and fold towels. So I got that job. And then the owner, she did skincare, massage, and nails. She told me that if I went to school to do nails, she would like to start to filter over some of her clients because she didn't want to really do that as much anymore. And that was something that I could complete the program and get my license in the time between graduating high school and starting college classes. So over the summer between high school and college, I did that. Kind of ended up working somewhere else for this Elizabeth Arden Red Door Salon in Rosedale, which is a mall here, which was really a great company and a great experience. And I started college and kind of right in that same fall, so the following year, my dad died really suddenly and unexpectedly. And that kind of changed the trajectory and the plan because I just couldn't focus that much on school, which I kind of wasn't really sure what I was doing there and what I wanted to do. So I was just going to start with some general classes, look into some programs and figure it out as I went. But after that, I just thought, okay, I need to take a break and kind of, go through a little bit of the grieving and see what's next. So I had an uncle, I still have this uncle, and he still lives in Boulder, Colorado. And he invited me to come spend a little time with him. And he had this circle of friends. And one woman in this circle was studying holistic health and homeopathy, which was really kind of the first I'd ever heard of that stuff. And she kind of took me under her wing, and she was growing her own herbs and making her own skincare products. And I was completely fascinated by that. And I thought, skincare is something that I just kind of thought, now I'm interested, and I already know I like working in kind of a salon or spa environment. And I thought I could do this until I figure out what else I really want to do. So I returned back home and went to school at the Yoga Institute in Minneapolis. And as I said, with the attitude, I'll do this until I figure out what else is there for me. And 25 years later, I'm still doing it. And to be honest, it's almost getting easier the older I get because I feel like the older I get, the more credibility I have with the kind of women who I really kind of are the basis of, the business and the clientele. Women who can afford skincare services and skincare products. And a lot of them also are bringing their, children or the young people in their lives. So that's kind of how I got started. Just thinking I love this as a concept, as a field of study. And what else I've realized is that it never ends because there's so many directions the that skincare can go. And I've really been blessed to have had the opportunity to work in a lot of different areas of aesthetics.
Well, as I think about, you being in Colorado and sort of this whole journey, what piqued my interest on your website the first time I met you is that you've treated the whole Moore family, Bruce Willis, Demi Moore, all the girls. You've done lots of celebrity faces. And so I think people forget about that. We have the LA facialist Candace was one of our Aesthetic Nexty nominees. She's like, oh, I'm at the Met Gala doing facials all week. It's like you guys are the ones who the celebrities can't live without skincare. Like they depend on you. You're like their lifeblood, more than their injectable nurse for sure, their injectable physician. So I just have to ask before we go forward, what's it like treating celebrities? I just have to know. I'm a total fangirl of the Moors.
Oh my gosh. So am I. And so that was actually in Idaho. So they were living in Haley, Idaho, which is right near Sun Valley. And I moved there. It was, oh my God, well, it was like 2000. And then I was actually living there during, 9/11 of 2001. So prior to that, it was just amazing. It was like that's a little area where you could go to the coffee shop and see any number of kind of celebrities and movie stars. And Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver might be at the coffee shop, or Jamie Lee Curtis is at the dog park. And I happened to befriend the nanny of Bruce Willis and Demi Moore. So because of these kind of friendships and connections with some of the people that worked and lived closely with them, I was invited to come over and do facials on her and the girls. And it was really amazing actually sitting. And I kind of wish I could go back knowing what I know now, because I think back then I didn't have quite the knowledge, but she was also like, I mean, I'm trying to think of, I guess her age must have been probably late 30s, early 40s, I'd have to estimate at that time. And her skin was perfect. She was gorgeous. And she was really interested and kind and welcoming.
You've obviously grown tremendously since then, just in general, what you're offering and what you're doing. And so I wanted to think about, as you think about sort of that experience being one avenue that you would go down, right? The celebrity facialist, the skincare guru, but you've taken a whole different, sort of universal approach. You're also an educator. So I know that you're doing a lot with education, both, in your career as a training manager for a company, and then obviously now you're doing it as well. We just found out that Maggie has been approved for CE credits to be able to offer and train estheticians in her spa there and give away CE credits, which you guys know is a huge thing. I know the work that takes, so congratulations on that. A massive opportunity for you to really share and educate. But how did you go from being the student, as they say in the martial arts, to use that, from the student to the teacher? How did that whole thing evolve?
Actually, I guess my first foray into teaching skincare was when a few years after I had graduated from the Yoga Institute, I went back to visit, and I ran into a former student, a former classmate of mine, and she was an instructor there, and she said, "We're looking for more instructors. You should apply." And so I did. I just thought, you know what, this would be I thought it would be an amazing experience. I loved going to school and being a student there. So I applied and got that job. So I started teaching their, brand new kind of the intro program of the esthetician program. So then I learned how to kind of really break it down and start from the very, very beginning of the basics. And so I think that experience really helped me to develop as an educator, because then I learned how to create curriculum and kind of start from like the very beginning with someone who needs to know enough, to get their license and be able to work on people, but kind of coming from maybe they didn't know anything at all before.
Well, I think it's a skill set. People people misunderstand or undervalue. I just had a discussion this morning with an injectable manufacturer about people who are great on podium. It's such a unique skill because to be great on Instagram, to be great in your own, your own clinic or your own spa is a very personal experience, right? A very one-on-one kind of thing. Even on Instagram, you're talking to the, to the phone, right? You're talking to followers who you don't see. But I think to get on a podium somewhere or in front of a classroom and really be able to educate all groups of people with all different learning styles, all different experiences coming into it, and really communicate your message is a big skill that people often don't have. They start to educate, they realize that they don't have it, and then they're sort of, they're hamstrung. But you mentioned building curriculum, and I'd like to dive into that a little bit because you're educating now in your own, in your own clinic, your own spa, doing things. What does that look like for you? And you say, I'm going to build curriculum. How do you go about doing that? Because I feel like that's where the gap typically exists.
Once you kind of have your the outline and just your list of things that you want to cover, then you kind of break down concepts from there. And that's kind of where working one-on-one with people or in a group in person is different because you're getting feedback from the people that you're working with, and you can find out, where are we starting from? What do you already know? And everyone can kind of contribute, which is a little bit of a different experience, I think, than like social media when people get on and they're just, they're sharing what they know. And then there may be some feedback and some sharing in the comments. But it's a lot different because, and I feel like maybe that's why it's a little bit daunting to teach on social media, because you're thinking the people are at all levels. So some people are going to be thinking, wow, this is really good information. And other people are going to be thinking, this is so basic. Why am I here?
Well, and you're serving patients, clients, and you're serving the other, estheticians who are watching. I think that's the hard part too, is you have two very different groups of people who are looking at your content on Instagram and social media, trying to learn from it. So you have to like almost, I don't want to say dumb down the messaging. That's not the right word, but you've got to make it very patient or client facing, to your point, but not lose interest of the people who are your colleagues who are trying to learn from you as well. So I think it's a tricky little place to be on Instagram.
I agree.
But, if I think about what you're offering just in general, as I was looking at your bio early on to get you to Aesthetic Next, what I find fascinating about estheticians that people don't understand is this incredible combination of this East meets West. If we think about medicine, and typically on our show, we have a lot of, as I mentioned, a lot of injectors, physicians, nurses, whomever, who are really focused on, the medical part of the business with patients as well. Like it's a medical procedure. We have sterile, the sterile field. We have all the supplies. And I talk to you guys, and you're really focused on the patient's or client's overall wellness and their holistic sort of, I don't want to say aura, but in a sense, it kind of it is. It's like what they walk in with and how you change and shape their lives in a way that's not just a procedure. So I want to go into that because I think people look at it and say, that's hocus pocus, or that's not real. But you guys are seeing tremendous results in your field. So walk me through, your perspective on that, because you're doing yoga and meditation and prayer and, intentions and all these things. Like, how does that even evolve into your, into your list of services?
Yes. So it kind of, for me, it has really been kind of a gradual evolution over time. So as I've been practicing skincare for 25 years, but I've also been teaching yoga and meditation for, I guess, about 12 or 13 years now. So I just started working with clients in a way that, said, if you're interested in doing some of this, we can just incorporate it into our treatments. And I had some takers and some people who were really into it. So we'll try different things. So not all clients are interested in doing meditation or breath work or stretching or anything like that before treatments, but some really are. And some feel like they really need that. And it makes a big difference in how they feel when they come in and have their treatment, and that's their time. Because now I just think, especially somehow life has become so crazy, so busy, and so demanding for people. And so the stress levels are going up, but it's kind of all this uncertainty and unknown, especially in this last year and a half with the pandemic and all of the political divisions and just madness in general. And it's just stressful because people's relationships are feeling that stress, and people are working with people that there's a new divide that maybe there wasn't a few years ago. All of those things, kids being in school and what's going on. So now when clients come in, I like to give them a chance to kind of settle in. I ask them right off the bat if they need water, if they would like some tea, if they need the restroom, so they can kind of unload whatever they've come with and get comfortable. And if they're new to me, then we start with a consultation and we really go through all of these things. And it also is just a conversation in which they can share with me what they feel about their first and foremost. We'll talk about their skin conditions and concerns that they're there to address. But then I like to go a little bit deeper and ask them to speak to big stressors in their lives, how they feel about their nutrition, how they feel about their movement, or do they have, quiet time or meditation or practices like that. I just like to know where people are at for their own self-care and their own if they are someone that takes that time for themselves, or if they're not, but they know they need to. Because I'm sure too, patients or clients will always come in and they'll tell you right off the bat, I don't do what I should be doing. Or they'll say, I feel like I've tried everything. So I like to just know, is this someone who already knows they don't do what they need to do for themselves, or someone that feels like they just need a little bit of guidance because what they're doing isn't working as well as they need?
And then when you get to that point, like how do you decide what they get? Because I look at me, and Maggie, I'm a walking science experiment. I don't sleep. I don't eat much. I don't drink water. Like I am literally. It's a miracle I'm even alive, to be honest. And so I think about, if you were to do a consult with me, you'd be like, sister, I don't even know where to start with your madness. So how do you decide the plan? If someone's like, I'm open to all of it, I want to do whatever you have to offer, I want to do all of it. How do you divide that time, and like, what's the year-long commitment to you look like as a patient?
Yes. Okay. That's such a great question too, because I also have just recently learned. Okay. So part of it was writing my book. And so this is my book, The Complexion Companion. It's a holistic guide to skincare as self-care. And I wanted to just include as many of my best kind of simple tips, best general advice as I could about just how to take care of yourself, kind of, through the lens of how do you, get the best complexion you possibly can. However, I have realized just, giving people books and telling them, well, you need to do all these things is not the best way for those people to get results, especially if it feels overwhelming. So the way I work with clients is I just ask them what they feel would be easy to incorporate over the next, 2 weeks before their next appointment, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 weeks before they're coming in again. And I kind of offer them, like, I could just call it a little bit of a menu. So we talk about the best foods for the complexion, which, by the way, not surprisingly, are the best foods for overall health in general. So it's like, best foods for the complexion are also the same best foods for the brain, best foods for the heart, best foods for weight management, whole foods, minimally processed. They'll make a list of food that they choose, what they feel like, okay, I do like the sound of, eating more berries, or I can drink tea. But if someone is like, I don't like tea, I don't want that, then I say, well, then let's not put it on your list. And what kind of movement do you like? Do you like to walk, or do you like to work out and box, or do you like to do yoga, or, things like that? I kind of just work with them where they can choose what they feel like they could do over a 2-week period. Just simplify. And, once they make their own list, there is a better chance that they will actually, try to actually do those things on the list. And I tell them, there's no have tos. You don't have to do it. But if you do, I'm feeling like you're going to feel a lot better. And when you start to feel better, you start to look better. So having a place where they can kind of come and actually just relax, breathe, be cared for by someone else. It's like, that's the holistic service, is like, this is kind of a safe place for people to come in and just be whatever they need. And we can talk about all of those different things. And I just like to meet my clients kind of where they're at. It's, as I said, if they're not into it and they don't want to, meditate and breathe, we don't have to do that. But if they do like that, and that does resonate with them, I'm all for it, and happy to do that, 10 times a day with people. And then, it's good I feel like that's good for my self-care as well.
When I think about this idea of, for many, many years in our industry, aesthetics in general, we talked about beauty. Like, you're the beauty guide, you're the beauty person. But we're seeing a shift, I think, in the last, 5 years, and even, more as we keep going, where it's about your wellness, like a wellness guide. It's not being beautiful is such a subjective term, and obviously cancel culture has made it even more so. But I think the focus on being well, being healthy, being, sound mind, sound body has become more of the forefront and less about beauty. And I think it's making the esthetician world, all the things you guys have been doing for all these years, become sort of the normal standard of care, right? It's like we know why you do yoga. We understand the fact that you're doing breathing exercises, that you're not worried about if they look pretty or not. I think we're shifting as an industry. And as I think about that, I really think about what you're doing and, in your particular area of expertise, you mentioned nutrition before. You focus a lot on nutrition. If I go to your website, the pop-up is about nutrition. And I think, from a kid that's had high anxiety their entire life, I know that gut health and digestion are related so much to anxiety and stress, and it shows up on your skin and all these things. Where did you learn all of that? Where did you get this nutrition background to be able to speak about this so intelligently? Because I think people would love to know how to do it in their own practices.
Well, I would say that the very first place that I really kind of got into it probably was the at the Aveda Institute. I remember that was, there was some nutrition classes in as part of the esthetician program. But also, I just read a lot of magazines as a young teenage girl, and of course, I wanted to be beautiful. I wanted my hair to look like a Victoria's Secret model, and my figure to look that way too, and everything. But I would get like the magazines that I had subscriptions to were like Glamour and Shape and Health. I feel like that was, for my age group and demographic, I'm 45, that those magazines, like my friends and I, we liked to get those, and they always reiterated kind of the same stuff, like the best, foods. It was, and you start to realize like that information has always remained consistent, that they're saying, eat lots of berries. Dark chocolate has the antioxidants. Green tea fights cancer cells. Fruits and vegetables should be the, bulk of your plate. Those things I feel like have always been the most consistent message. But I feel like, especially here in America, we've just really normalized fast food, convenient food, packaging, and processed food is much more normal and accessible, and it seems to be just in the way, because then people are not really, it's like the other stuff. It's kind of like, yeah, we get all that, but then how many people prioritize that those are going to be the things that they make sure they're getting, at every time they go to the grocery store, and that that's their focus. So I felt like I was really reading that information in multiple places for years and years, even before, going to school. It was like, from the time I could read those magazines. But I started to also just research more and more about, how everything affects the skin. And that's just what I really wanted to know, especially as I, got really in with these companies and as a sales rep and educator, that I really needed to understand how the topical ingredients affected the skin, which ingredients can go deep, which don't, which stay surface. But then it just kind of naturally led to wanting to know how the foods we eat affect our skin, especially a few years back when we just started hearing so much about that connection between dairy and acne, or gluten and digestive issues, and gut health and gut pain. The microbiome, the bacteria in the gut, that communicates with the microbiome on the skin, bacteria on the skin, and that the digestive issues, skin health issues, and emotional and mental health issues, and mood regulation and cognitive function are all directly impacted by the health of the gut. And if the gut gets leaky, which just meaning that those cells are not tight enough, and they create a permeability supposed to be staying in the digestive tract, leaks through to the bloodstream, that can be an overload for the liver, and then also create an immune system response in the form of inflammation. So then that inflammation comes out on the skin. So I think a lot of the habits and the foods and things that that I talk about, everything is kind of in the direction of reducing inflammation in the body and even in the mind. And I read a really great blog the other day where this guy was talking about how treat your mind kind of the way you would treat skin wounds. Like if you have a thought that's really bugging you and triggering emotions, think about it like if you cut your finger, what would you do? You just rinse it off, you cover it up, and you leave it alone. Because the more involved you get with that cut, the bigger mess you're going to have and the deeper the wound is going to be. And this guy was offering the perspective that it's the same thing with your thoughts. And when you start to get those negative thoughts and you start to think, I need to process through those thoughts a little more, it's just going to get worse and worse. But if you just leave it be sometimes, well, thoughts and feelings keep shifting. So we can kind of leave some of the negative ones alone and they'll just heal on their own. So
I couldn't agree more. People who are like obsessed with going to therapy, I'm like, there are things that if I don't talk about them, they'll change next week and I'll move on. Like diving into everything that upsets you or makes you, question your sanity. I just think that that's not a good place to be because you're just exacerbating the wound, to your point. It's just, I have very different feelings about therapy. So for my psychiatrist listening, I'm so sorry, but I think that sometimes you're overbearing and you need to stay out of our lives. But anywho, but it is true. I think, the idea of it being like a wound, I think that's a genius way to put it. It's a great metaphor. But I want to dive into that thinking about what you just said, all of that. So if you guys listening to this thinking about, gosh, there's a lot to unpack. When I think about you as a business owner, the fact that you're offering all of that whole like lifestyle perspective to a client makes you very sticky, right? Because you're impacting their entire life, not just their skin. Like their whole life is really sort of revolving around the things that you're telling them. That's a pretty savvy place to be as an entrepreneur because, compared to a person who's just doing a facial, just doing a service, you've got a lot more to offer. And so from a business perspective, as an entrepreneur, how did you get to this place, or how are you even doing it now? Thinking about your business, profitability, how do you price your services? Like what's the business back end? Because you mentioned before, I teach people how to sell things and sell skills. What's the business side of all this that makes it really work and makes you, bring home a paycheck at the end of the week?
And I try to figure out what people are coming for. So as I, kind of was also saying is that sometimes I have parents coming with their young teenagers or, someone that is like, I am ready to address these skincare issues or, that's where I feel like, okay, like let me really tell you my approach and see where you would like to go from there. So all of these different things, I really just kind of let them know their options and then let them kind of tell me where they want to go. So I hope that makes sense. And then, so some clients, will come, once or twice and think, oh, that's great. When I get a gift card, I'll get a facial. And I don't care that much about any of the other stuff. So that's fine. Then, I'm happy to just stay silent, give them a great facial, and they can be on their way. Then I always will ask them, are you interested in talking about products? Are you interested in recommendations? And I let them know there's no limit. We can hook you up with, 6 to 8 products. Or if you just want to start with, 1 or 2, we can start there. And, again, we have clients and patients that love products. So some people want all of it. Some people are just like, I can't do too much. Just one thing is all I can do. So I really just try to create those relationships based on listening to what they want and letting them, figure out that if they really want to make this a higher value, we can go deeper. I do have, it's making me just think of one client who let me know early on in the relationship that she didn't want to be too serious about it. She didn't want to spend too much money. She thought the products were, a little more expensive than they should be or needed to be. But then she agreed to try it once, the 2 products that I recommended, and she's come back for them every, 6 to 8 weeks or whatever since for the same things, and always does comment that she thinks they're too expensive, but is still willing to pay for them because she knows they're working.
Isn't that funny? It's like, I don't want this, but I have to have it. I'll just do it.
Yes.
But I just think about pricing all that. So, if I'm coming in for just a facial, just routine facial, no big deal. am I paying one price versus if I'm saying, okay, Maggie, redesign my life here. Give me all the things. Is there like an add-on package for that? Because I think people who are listening wanting to know, how do you make money at this? Because it seems very much like a love project for you. It's a passion thing for you. How do you monetize it when you're spending a lot of extra time in the room doing all these other things? What's the money look like for that?
Okay, so um, they will still feel that they are just paying for the service. And because I've kind of got it streamlined to where the consultation, we can kind of get through it quickly. They fill out their kind of intake form just to let me know, what they're using, what their skin conditions and concerns are, what their routine is, what their medications are, what their allergies are, things like that. And then so they filled kind of that out. Then if they want to go through the lifestyle stuff, then I have kind of another form where they create their own, so it doesn't take all that much more time actually. And then once we have that relationship established where they're going to come back in 2 weeks, we just discuss it, kind of briefly. And if they want to kind of like you know and so most of the times they will say, I will do another one for the next couple of weeks. So I have my basic facial, signature facial, which is 111. Takes about 50 minutes. And then I also have the holistic high performance facial, which is 200. So for my area, those are good prices. They're probably not the most expensive prices in town, but they're high end. And I don't discount my services ever. I don't do Groupons or anything like that. I used to do like a special once in a while, and just once a year, I do a special for Small Business Saturday at the holidays, where if they purchase a gift card for $100, they get a $50 gift card that they can use towards services only. They can use that original 100 if they want for product, but they're kind of, the gift is just to be used in service. So those are that's like kind of the only special that I do. And then I just include all of that other stuff in the consultation, but I have it streamlined so the conversation moves quickly. And when we just kind of keep talking about it as much as they want to, like maybe while we're, doing the treatment, or, following up. And oftentimes people that are getting a little bit more involved, the thing is they're also purchasing their products from me. They're also, getting in, those are the clients that, will purchase my book or my online course. So I feel like, the more they want, the more investment they also are giving in return. And because I don't do discounts or a lot of specials, I feel like I also don't have, besides the one, couple clients that will make comments about pricing, but I just don't pay a lot of attention to that, because I just don't take all that personally. I just feel like some people just, make comments and complain. I just stay focused on like what we're doing.
Well, I think you have to, because if not, you get so distracted by it. But I think what you just said about, one patient who's investing in you. We had a guy on, Cameron Hemphill, a few weeks ago, and he's like an SEO, digital guru. But he's like, one patient who loves you should be on Google telling friends, telling their yoga group. They should be buying products from you. They should be booking, in advance. Like, one person who is really a big fan or advocate of your spa could pay dividends for you long term, and at no discount in your case, right? So it's like you get a double value from that one patient. But as I think about their like cadence of coming back, are they coming back every single, every 2 weeks, every month? What's your average frequency of visit for a patient?
I would say, for if we're working to reduce acne, it could be weekly. If we're doing the light therapy, 2 or 3 times a week for light therapy. Because that's what I really recommend for in-service, or for in-clinic services, when it comes to light therapy. If it's kind of someone just on a regular maintenance, I recommend, coming in every 4 to 6 weeks. And then they also, kind of get to decide. So I have a lot of clients that come every month, and then I have a lot of others that come about every 6 weeks or to 8 weeks. Some people that come every quarter, and then again, those people that come, when they get a gift card. But then you start to realize, these people are requesting gift cards, and they're getting one, for every birthday and every Christmas or something like that, or every holiday. And so they're coming on those occasions. So it depends on what we're really working on. And if they're, and that's kind of, again, with the light therapy, because I'm a huge advocate for that. And, the most challenging part is not finding people that will come in. It's, that often it is just finding time on our schedules that work together.
When you said light therapy. I want to go into that though, because you're like the light therapy girl, and you're a big Sluma advocate. You're doing it at home in the clinic. Give us the background on light therapy, because I think that's very unknown and very I don't want to say confusing. People have no idea what it actually does and if it's like witchcraft or not. So, and I know that you're seeing tremendous success with with your clients. Give us the light therapy lowdown. If you didn't come to Aesthetic Next and hear the lecture, give us the high level of what all you shared.
Okay, so I think, light therapy isn't very well known in general, but it's really not new. It's not new to the industry or to the world, but I do feel that over the last, I don't know, at least 5 to 10 years, there has been an increase of devices that are just, more affordable and easier to use. It used to be that there was just mostly like the little handhelds that you could kind of move around for LED therapy. And which, basically means light emitting diode, and all of the different colors of the wavelength go to a different depth in the skin and in the body. So the blue light is particularly effective for the treatment of acne. It just seems to be, it's antibacterial, so it can kill that bacteria that's in that layer of skin where the acne bacteria lives. Then the red light goes a little bit deeper to the dermis and can stimulate collagen production, can stimulate the cells, mitochondria, to create its own ATP energy. That's the fuel or that kind of the energy that fuels the cells. And then infrared goes to the muscle and the joint and can reduce inflammation at that level. So is great for pain management. So I use a panel with the blue, the red, and the infrared. It kind of started because I have a neighbor who had this really bad cystic acne, like kind of these boils that just kept erupting here on her face in a pattern. And she went to the dermatologist. She had been on antibiotics for this condition. She had tried Accutane before she had her son. But that was the thing, is that then she, became pregnant, had her son. The problems came back. They didn't really have much to offer her. When she came to me, I took it a little bit. It was almost like I felt like, because this person lives on my block, I really want to help her. I don't want my neighbors thinking, oh, she can't even help, her that, lives right here. So I called another esthetician colleague of mine and I said, I'm really kind of struggling. I've tried everything I have, just the products and the treatments that I did have, basically some peels and, extractions, but it wasn't getting us the results we wanted. And it was just another esthetician friend of mine that said that the blue light therapy had really been a game changer for her acne clients. So I ordered one. Within 10 sessions, it went from being like these raised cystic boils kind of to flat. And she ended up purchasing one and using it at home. And now it's like, even the scarring is pretty much invisible now. And that was just from the light therapy and then the change in products. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then I was so happy with the results that I just decided I need to offer this, on a bigger scale. Then I told my husband, I'm going to order, 6 panels. And I thought, so this is where I had to learn that this is not an impulse purchase, because I thought, I'm going to send my clients an email and tell them that, I've got this panel and they're going to buy them all, with one email. And they'll be lined up around the block. And that is not exactly how it happened. So that's when I started to kind of also be creative, because I just realized, as I said, it's not really an impulse purchase. The panels that I sell are, close to $1,800. That's not usually an investment someone is ready to make when they came in for a facial. So I decided to slow it down and offer those 3 ways. So I have them for purchase. but it takes a while. Most of the clients have to be really seeing the results, which is why I offer for them to also rent it and take it home, use it for a week or two. Once they start seeing the results, then they can decide if they want. Sometimes they don't feel they need to. They feel like it's working, the products are working, they don't need to buy it. They can then just start coming for treatments, monthly to maintain. So that's fine too. So, part of it is like I kind of had to let go of so many things. As a business owner, you just let go of the control of what other people are going to do and the decisions they're going to make. So it's like it's all on offer. I try to make it simple, and then they can, let me know what level of commitment and seriousness they're bringing to the table.
Well, you said some things there as a business owner. So, this is obviously a big lesson, learning about the panels and the price point. If you're going to give me some advice as an entrepreneur going in to open my own spa, as an esthetician, what are the things that you've learned or the things, beyond just this one thing that you're like, that was a bonehead move, or gosh, that was so successful? Like, give us some good industry insight on how to be successful.
I guess one thing I have learned is to stay on top of my accounting. Like I use QuickBooks. I've had years where I basically neglected to do my data entry until, like I leave it alone for months, and then it's all confusing and it's a big mess. So I say invest a few minutes, every day or every couple days, and stay on top of that accounting. It just makes tax time so much easier. That's one of the biggest things because, I feel like I started this business by, thinking, oh, all that stuff is, on the side. No, that stuff is very important when you're running your business. Also, just being consistent, reliable, and communicative with clients, especially if there is an issue with a client or a colleague. I have a high value for that stuff, and I feel like that keeps things very peaceful when you kind of have consistent policies, are reliable, are accessible, and especially if someone isn't happy or if they're confused or something. Like I have also a high value of really prioritizing those issues so they don't become bigger issues. For some really successful things, I think keeping my product line offering pretty simple has worked well for me. I also know some estheticians that carry like a lot of different lines and a lot of different products, and that seems great, and it also seems like quite expensive, and keeps your your bills high. So I kind of like to think, what do I really need? And then during certain times of the year, maybe offering a little bit more here and there, like for holidays. As I said, like you can do gift certificate specials around the holidays. I feel like that is a really nice way to boost business. It's a great time to do promotions. It's a great time to add new fun things and see how well they work and how well they sell. Then, yeah, and the light therapy, I feel like that has become such a must-have for me that I recommend that for everybody's aesthetics practice.
Well, then on top of all that, you sort of have this school idea, right? You're doing all this training as well. Where does that fit in? So are you doing that a certain time of, once a month? Are you doing individual people coming in? How do you fit that in? Because I think one of the big things people don't really get their head around is, I want to be a trainer or an educator. Great. Now, how does that fit in the actual business model? Because you got to still make money as a practicing, esthetician or a practicing injector, while you're also going to build this school and spend time doing this, which is not going to be the same kind of client relationship. So how are you managing all that at the same time?
So here's kind of what it's looking like now. So since I wrote the book and the book came out this year, I also created an online course that kind of is it's similar information to the book, but it dives a little bit deeper because I could do audios and have downloads, and I can update that in a different way than I can do the book. I have recorded audio meditations in the course and things like that. And I have been talking right now I have 2 schools that we're talking about including the course and my book in their curriculum. So this is for esthetician students. And then they would pay me per student for access to the course, a copy of the book, and then for me to come in and speak to the class every time they kind of start a new group in the program. Now that I'll be doing these classes for estheticians for continuing ed credits, I am experimenting with adding 2 classes monthly, one on a Sunday, one on a Monday, and it's a 4-hour class, and I'm going to just run it twice a month for October and November and kind of see how that goes. And in 2022, I'll kind of probably land on a day once a month and offer that class. My class is called The Art of Integrating a Holistic Approach into Your Aesthetics Practice. So there'll be some writing exercises, there'll be some meditation, there'll be some snacks that are on the list of the best foods for the complexion. My husband is going to cater these events. He's a professional chef, and he can just do a buffet of the best food and the best presentation. And so, and we'll have tea, and we'll just kind of discuss and share all of these ideas on how to just offer these really simple tips and incorporate things without, another huge investment, without a huge investment for the clients, but just to kind of coach other estheticians on how they can even better and more in a really simple way support their clients and keep their own skills sharp as well, and just make sure that they're kind of staying on top of stuff on this side of things.
Yeah, it's like you're
So
you're
it
building like an
just
experience layer. I feel like that class seems to me like if you're a great esthetician who's working right now and doing beautiful treatment results and beautiful, work, this is like now the up the ante, right? The experience layer of how do you make that treatment stand out against the competition? All these other things, like this, additional layer of things makes you it's a competitive advantage. I think it's a massive competitive advantage, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I do feel like, and what you said too about your clients, that become so valuable because they're talking about you and helping to promote and referring. One business coaching class that I took early on, a couple really good pieces of advice that I got. One was like she said, you need to do think about doing a campaign, like you're the campaign manager for your business. So like a media campaign. So I had reached out to some beauty bloggers and beauty editors when I first opened my business. And a couple of them, were really receptive. They came in, they checked out my business, they met with me, heard about my vision, and then wrote about me in the magazines or did a blog and shared with their readers. That was really helpful. And then another thing I did was just asking clients to submit testimonials, and that's something I still do from time to time in a newsletter. I'll just ask and say, if you have loved coming to see me, please, shoot me over a quick testimonial. Super appreciated. And I've been able to kind of collect a nice collection of great testimonials. So I've got them on my website, and they're on Yelp, and then a couple of them are on Google.
But as a kind of wind down, the last thing I want to touch on before we've already been here for like an hour. I mean, who knew? Is your book, and so you are a published author, which I think is a daunting task. I've written a dissertation, which is 100 and whatever 50, 200 pages, which is miserable to do, by the way. But you've written this incredible book, and you've gone through the publishing, the editing, all the process. Give us, high level, how do you start writing a book? What do we even do with that? How do you get it, on Amazon? Like, give us what's the process look like?
Really have to give all the credit for most of that to Wise Ink, which is this beautiful publishing company I worked with, and they're local here in Minneapolis, and they it's like a kind of a hybrid publisher where it is a self-publishing process. So it's not cheap, but as the author, I kind of paid for all of these pieces to move along in the process, but they did it just as professionally as if it were a professional publisher. And I just thought that would have a lot of value. And it just it was kind of another serendipitous thing that brought me there. One day I was reading there's a local artist and author that wrote a children's book here in the Twin Cities. And I was kind of looking at like the credits of her book. And I noticed that the designer that was listed was the same designer that did my website. So I emailed, her name is Emily. I emailed her the next day and I said, well, I didn't know you designed books, but I want to write a book. And when I write a book, will you design for me? And she said, well, of course I will, but I do this through this company called Wise Ink, and you need to connect with them if you're doing a book because they will have a lot more help and support. So I did have two of my own friends that also are editors. They did the first 2 rounds of edits. So the book took 3 years to complete from the day I sat down with the first friend and we did the outline and the chapter list. And then I started writing. Then I went through 2 rounds of edits before I even took it to the publishing company. And then they have an editor proofread and kind of go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I was really happy to have the same designer for my website and the book because I felt like it just kept all the branding really cohesive. She was the one who designed my logo and my branding to begin with. When it does become exhausting after you've been working on something for years and it starts to be where you're reading your own words over and over and you just kind of like, now it's just all jumbled. There comes a point where you can't do your own editing anymore, I think. And you need someone else to say, and now we need this, or you're going to have to clarify that. And then they would say, we need a references page and we need this and that. So having them tell me everything, and they're the ones that got it on Amazon and turned it into an ebook and all of those things. So I would highly recommend someone like them, and you don't have to be local to work with them.
Now you've got this beautiful book, and for those of you who are listening, for our first 5 who DM us, we're going to give away some copies of Maggie's book, which is incredible. We have a copy here in the office, and if you guys are watching on YouTube, you'll see the book, but if not, you can go to her website, to complexionsoncarter.com, and you'll see her book for sale there, but we're going to give a few away, so DM us at Aesthetic Record and let us know that you've listened to this, and we will send you a copy of Maggie's book. But it is a fantastic read that you're giving to patients, obviously. They're buying it from you at your clinic. You're giving it to other estheticians who are, interested in getting started and sort of learning the whole process. So I think it's become like a manual, like an instruction manual, if you will. It's served a lot of purposes that maybe weren't even in the beginning your intention, but now it's, it's kind of grown a life of its own or legs of its own that will go a lot farther than you can go as as an individual person. So I'm excited to keep diving into it. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Well, what's next for you? What's the next big thing on your list?
Just to keep going on the journey and see where everything leads. I mean, I feel fortunate because at this point, once you've been doing something for 25 years, opportunities are a little bit more easy to come by. But it makes it easier that, to kind of show exactly what you're all about. I feel like when you and I connected earlier on this summer to decide if I was, coming to the event, it was much easier to like explain, what I meant. You could kind of like get the picture pretty quickly because of all of these things that I've been working on to get, in place and ready over these years.
For the record, you have been a fantastic guest on our show today. And I enjoy learning more about this industry. Like I said, I think it's just fascinating. And as COVID came around or the pandemic came around, I think skincare became very sexy again because people had, in the medical practices had kind of forgotten about it a little bit. It was just products, right? Like we're going to sell products, but it kept people alive. Like it kept practices alive, doing at-home chemical peel parties and thinking about skincare in a different way. And so I think you guys, what you're offering now has become again in the spotlight for the first time in a little while. It's like now back on the forefront. And people are really taking a notice and seeing the incredible results that you're getting and what you're offering beyond, these just purely medical type procedures. So I think it's coming back in a big way, and you're one of the ones leading that charge. I think the holistic idea of wellness in general is very sexy right now. It's very much a part of our culture. As to your point, America's kind of in a disheveled mess right now as a country. So people need that stress relief. So if you guys want to go learn more about Maggie, go to her website, complexionsoncarter.com. And then Maggie, what's your Instagram handle? Tell us that.
At the Complexion Corner, and then Maggie Miley Kelly.
Yeah, so give her a follow. Go to our Instagram at Aesthetic Record and let us know that you've listened to this podcast, and we'll send you a new shiny book from Maggie's collection. And we'll look forward to seeing you for sure next year at Aesthetic Next. 100% we'll see you live.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I just have loved talking with you, and was honored to be part of the event, and it was amazing. And thank you so much for your time today too.
You guys have a good one. Thanks. Thanks for listening to another episode of For the Record. This podcast is not intended to provide legal or medical advice. It's for entertainment, education, and information purposes only. For more information on this week's guest or to get started with Aesthetic Record, email us at info@aestheticrecord.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more fresh perspectives on disrupting the status quo and surviving in the aesthetics industry.